Excellent. So it's nice to see you all again, or see a couple of you. I don't know how many are here, but we'll see later on. And now it's an opportunity to just have a quiet meditation together. And all that meditation does is to bring a sense of peace and calm into our body and into our mind. And it's a wonderful place to start when we're listening to a Dharma talk. It opens up our brain to maybe some new ideas, some inspiration, and especially to find that pathway into the peace inside of our hearts. So to do that, we first of all start by closing our eyes. And with your eyes closed, the awareness and mindfulness is a little bit stronger because it's not like you have to deal with the sense of sight. As one sense has been shut down for a little while. So all that part of your brain, it would have to deal with figuring out what the sight means. All of that is now shut down so that your brain can now feel the body and hear my speech. By shutting down one sense, it means the other senses can have more energy, so more aware, and especially aware of your sense of touch and how you're sitting. Become aware of how your feet are. And if your feet are in a posture, position which is going to be suitable for meditation. Sometimes we do put our body in positions which may on the surface feel okay, but when our awareness is stronger, we can see quite clearly those positions cannot be sustained for very long before they become uncomfortable and we have to fidget and move. So I start my meditations always by checking the awareness of my body. And I start with the furthest part of my body from my head, understanding that as I move my awareness up my body, by the time it gets to my torso, the engine room of my body, by the time it reaches there, it's already got some strength to it. So it can deal with some of these important ways of bringing some health and comfort to your upper body. We start just with our feet. I'm just making sure my feet are comfortable on the floor. And then I move my awareness up past my ankles. When I start, don't pick up too many sensations, but as I continue, mindfulness grows. Awareness, mindfulness is not just one thing of one intensity, just like warmth or like light, like coolness, it can grow. The type of mindfulness which you really need to get into some nice meditations is very strong awareness, and it's growing little by little as you sweep your attention past your ankles up your calves. I feel my calves, the front of my lower legs. And there's a specific type of feeling which I've recognized because I've been aware of my calves many, many, many times. I know the feeling which says that that is comfortable, that everything is just fine down there. And move your attention past the calves to the knees. People do get problems with their knees and need replacements. When I look at my knees, if I see any type of tension or tightness there, I will just stop there for a while, just pause. Let my mindfulness grow in that one area which needs some, for want of a better word, attention. And when I feel any type of imbalance in my knees, I just give it this beautiful kindness. It's like a mother looking over an injured or a upset child. Can look it in the eyes, stroke it, give it this beautiful warmth, and the child settles down. It's almost like I'm reassuring my niece. And the power of kindness is real. And I've learned how to give kindness to my own body. Being a monk, celibate, living alone most of the time, the kindness from my own heart I give to my own body. You can relax almost anything. So I relax my knees, move the awareness up my thighs, feeling any sensation as I sweep up these great muscles of my thighs, relaxing as I go. By relaxing, I can sometimes feel some tightness in those muscles. And I go to both ends of those muscles and loosen both ends. It's like holding a piece of rope very tightly, and you loosen both ends and it becomes with no tension anymore. You learn how to do that, and the awareness allows you to have the feedback, see what you do and what the result is. You soon get to learn how to relax your own body. Then you go to your butt, it's great muscles which support my body sitting on a chair. And I have to make sure that they are comfortable. Because I wear robes, I have to make sure that there's not a fold of cloth biting into my skin. Make sure that those muscles are comfortable. It doesn't take that much to make them comfortable, but it saves a lot of pain later on. And then you move up. I go first of all to my back. Many years ago I had some back injury, don't know really what it was, but it healed itself after a few weeks and months. And now I can know my back, can feel its muscles. And I always like giving it the stretch. When you stretch, it just releases all these pain-killing chemicals into the bloodstream. It feels pleasant. And I've seen so many other animals in the forest doing this, and living as a monk in nature, I do learn from the animals which I watch. And then I let go and feel my back relax and get very comfortable. You can feel it, that's just nice for meditation. And I go to the front of my body. And because I'm a monk, there's always something going on in the intestines or colon or something. Not quite sure what, but I can feel just the intestines a little bit sort of irritated. Probably for something I ate today. Because being a monk, sometimes you don't know what you eat. You try your best. Then I can feel these intestines. And I go to that area which seems to be a bit tight. Focus my awareness there. Give kindness to the point that things start to relax. When you try this mindfulness and kindness, you soon learn just the feedback. It's a bit of trial and error to begin with, but you soon learn from the feedback you get from your trial and error. Mindfulness will tell you whether you're going in the correct direction or going in the wrong direction. If it starts to feel that tightness is loosening, pain is off, energies are just more positive in that part of your body, and you know you're going in the right direction. And you soon learn. You soon learn how to relax. Any part of the body you want. And I just go further up the body, everything else is just pretty wonderful. So you may have some diseases, illnesses, or whatever. Maybe had an operation recently. You go past that area and you pause there. You do a bit of kindness. It's a part of your body which may have been through a pain, a bit of trauma, a bruising, or whatever. And you pause there and give it kindness. Relax it. The body has got some great ways of healing itself. So often we don't allow that self-healing to happen. Sometimes around an injury, there is an inflammation which sort of blocks energy getting in. With mindfulness and kindness, we can feel that part of the body relax very deeply. As it relaxes, body energy or mind energy, don't know what you call it, we can feel just healing coming into that part of the body. Very often people feel like a heat, a warmth coming to that part of the body, just that part of the body, no other part. And if you feel one particular part of the body is warm, other parts are just ordinary temperature, well done. The body is doing something to heal an injury or an upcoming problem. So it feels wonderful. Working with the body, allowing the body to heal itself. Through developing simple mindfulness and kindness. And then when you're ready, you get to your shoulders. These shoulders like holding these big bunches of muscles. And sometimes for some reason we've been pulling them apart, stretching them. I want to loosen them all. And I can feel just my shoulder muscles loosening now. Just depends on how long it takes. You can pause and linger in a place. You don't have to follow my speed. And I go down my arms, past the elbows to the hands. Once again, I haven't been paying attention to the hands for the last few minutes. I find my hands in not a very good position. So I change that position now. Again, you do learn what is the best position for your hands when you're meditating. When the hands are comfortable. And I move away from the hands and up to the neck. Feel the neck. The irritation in my throat, which I had the first night, it's not there now. Just making sure that the head is well balanced. Sometimes when I see photographs of people meditating, or see videos of them, sometimes I can see their head to one side or too far forward. I think that's really going to hurt their neck sooner or later. So I make sure my head is really well balanced. Not too far forward, not too far to the left or the right. Then go to my facial muscles. Again, because of how we have to relate to life, sometimes our muscles around the forehead or the eyes, the nose, the mouth can be quite tense. So I just scan my face. How are the muscles around my eyes? And they were quite tight a moment ago. As soon as I notice that, I can relax those muscles so they're more at ease. I relax them some more. So they really get loose. Same around my mouth. And of course, I notice that when the muscles in my face are all at ease, then the emotions, which can sometimes affect the muscles in your face, those emotions are also relaxed. It not only just makes the face feel good, but it gets rid of some of the very worst of the negative emotions. So it's not just your body is becoming peaceful, so is your mind. And as always, peace feels good. Relaxation feels delightful. You may not be totally relaxed, but you're surely more relaxed than when you began. Just noticing that much should be able to point out to you the pleasure of a relaxed body. Specific flavor of pleasure, the delight of relaxation. Reason why you may wake up in the morning cozy in bed. You don't want to get up because you're delighting in relaxation, or having a massage, or soaking in a hot tub. Everything is loose and at ease. The tightness which accumulates during your day is released. Your body feels good. And even inside the body, my intestines and organs and stuff, that too feels more at ease. Giving yourself the gift of ease. You deserve to be granted moments of relaxation. It's good for you. It benefits others. It's totally wonderful. So I'm just enjoying my relaxed body. And I notice, as always, when I start to notice the delight in my body, which accompanies relaxation. The relaxation gets deeper. Everything loosens up even more. It's like the body says to itself, I like this, I want some more. So it relaxes more. It's not what I do, it's what I experience. So often I enjoy the delight so much, I don't want to go any further. It's always good to go deeper by going into the world of your emotions, of your mind, your peaceometer. How peaceful are you right now? So you're just focusing, you're choosing to focus on this thing we call peace. And to make it easier for you to focus on something, just look at peaceometer. 10 is very agitated, 1 is really peaceful. Give it a number right now. Make it something which you're more used to, like reading a thermometer or a speedometer or something. Now, what makes that level of peace go closer and closer to 1? Real peace. You can try many things, but what really works is just coming into this moment, just now. All the stuff you've done today, all the things I've done today, all the things which you're going to do after the meditation is finished, that's not important at all. You learn not to worry about anything. You found out, as you know, that now is where my future is being made. I want to give a good talk after this meditation. I don't think about what I'm going to say. I just put awareness into this moment. Now is where my future is made. The deeper I can relax right now, the better things will be later. I don't carry the past. I don't even trust my memories of the past. The only thing I can really know for sure is what's happening now. This is the only place there can be any truth. The Dhamma lives now, in this moment. I don't make the mistake of trying to give it a name, trying to recognize it, trying to think, what does this mean? How does it relate to this or that? I just let this experience be. Matching it up and comparing it to other things so you can understand it comes later. Right now we just collect the data of a mind at peace. Right in this moment, with a mind that is quiet. It's not thinking or naming. Just like you can see people always talking. Sometimes your mind is always talking to itself. But not now. Now we trust the silence. You feel safe. You don't need to give any commands. You don't need to exercise choice. You just know that it's peaceful. You soon feel the delight of peace. The joy of the freedom, having nothing to worry about, nothing to think about, no business, a mind that knows, stillness. So often, my awareness of the breath comes up. I usually let the awareness of the breath come up naturally. Never go chasing the breath, trying to find it. When it's ready, that's what I'm aware of. I'm aware of my breath, not as a possession. I never try to control it. It comes in as fast or as slow as it wants, according to how much oxygen it thinks it needs. I just observe without interfering with it at all. I just know one breath at a time, or rather half a breath, sitting breath or an out breath. It's a very peaceful thing to watch. I notice the delight just watching the breath, just like the delight of just sitting by the beach, watching the waves come in and go away on a calm, windless day. Or you can notice the delight of the peace of watching the breath. It's satisfying. I feel deep contentment. Don't want anything else in the whole world. Being here. Watching my breath. I don't watch the breath at the tip of the nose or anywhere, I just watch the breath. I know it's coming in, I know it's going out, that's all. And sometimes the mind gets so still. You experience some lights coming up in the mind. Your eyes are closed. It's like seeing the moon, full moon in the sky. Peaceful, beautiful. The mind's getting so strong. Starts to present what we call nimittas. Beautiful lights in the mind. Just content with them. They come to visit me. I never go looking for them and try and control them. Just let them be. Now, it's getting close to the meditation again. Close to the end of the meditation. Before you come out of meditation, how do you feel? What's it like for you right now? This is awareness of the general state of peace inside your heart. Feel that everything is just resting harmoniously. at peace. You're aware of that beautiful, delightful awareness. And I check my body. How's my legs, my butt, my back, my head feel? I haven't paid attention to them for half an hour, but they feel so good, so relaxed. In a few seconds, I'll ask you to open your eyes to end the meditation. Has to end. So now please open your eyes. Smile. Oh, that was a nice one. Thank you so much for letting me do that.
That was powerful.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ajahn. So, welcome everyone to the third and the last evening of the online Zoom vaccine program leading by Ajahn Brahm. This is your last chance. Again, I'm Freddy, the host today. For any compliments, please go to Ajahn. For complaints, please go to Jean. I'm so mean to her. For spams, please go to the supermarket. Sorry, I'm being very silly here. Anyway, I want to thank all the co-organizers, including the Buddhist store. They are promoting our event and also streaming this to their live YouTube channel. And also want to thank Buddhist Bookshop that promote this event. And also, by the way, you can find Ajahns many books there. And also the Center on Behavioral Health of University of Hong Kong, also the CBSAA and HKSDS. Yeah, Ajahn knows this organization. He has visited them many times for promoting this event as well. And if you want to donate, you can do so at the links that we post here in Zoom, on Facebook, and on YouTube as well. If you are interested in some of our past event recordings, such as those led by Ajahn Brahm as well, please go to the YouTube channel, and you can also find them on our webpage. I want to remind everyone that the schedule for tonight. So after I speak, there will be the talk, and about around 7:45, there will be the Q&A. And please note that I think there are 100 questions now. I really doubt if Ajahn can answer them all. So please consider up for other people's questions. That is a really good karma. And after that, if Ajahn permits, please do us a blessing. Will you, Ajahn?
Certainly.
Thank you, Ajahn. And right at the end, I'm going to do a very bold move today, which is going to let everyone unmute themselves and to shout their sadhus for a few seconds. And yeah, that's all for me. So here comes the vaccine, the holy water right from the mouth of Ajahn Brahm.
Okay, thank you, Freddie. Because sometimes when we give a talk, we think of a nice title for the talk. And I've done so many weird titles. I remember giving talks, Buddhism and coffins, Buddhism and bananas, Buddhism and rubbish. But those titles of the talk is having a bit of fun, understanding that what the talk is not an intellectual talk. It's not telling you what to believe. It's not having some fine arguments about what the Buddha taught, what the Buddha didn't teach. is something which is how to live your life, and how to take something about how to live a more peaceful, happy, healthy life, which is much more rewarding for yourself and for others. And the wonderful thing is that you start by teaching things like that. And what works to make a much more healthy, happy, successful, fulfilling life for you in the world also works when you live by yourself as a monk or as a nun. It makes the mind so much more peaceful. And when you sit down and close your eyes, the same thing. This makes the mind so deeply peaceful, it starts to get into deep meditations. And after you emerge from those deep meditations, you have these amazing insights on just the sort of problems you had and just how easy they are to solve in this world. And as I said yesterday, just basically there are some problems in this world which you can fix up pretty easily. There's some problems in this world which you don't want to fix up because you learn so much. They're not a problem at all. And that's one little story I think I meant to tell yesterday, but I forgot to tell. And it was an inspiring story, which I read in a book. That's why I haven't written it myself in one of my books, because it came from some other book I read a long time ago. And it was about this American backpacker many, many years ago who was working his way through Europe. And in those days, a young man, he would get to one nice city like Paris or just like Geneva or Rome or somewhere. And then to survive or get some extra money for his journey, he would get simple jobs somewhere, save up some money, enjoy the scenery, and then move to the next part of Europe. And this particular time, he'd landed up in Vienna, the capital of Austria, and he got a job in a restaurant. The pay was not that much, but he would get tips from the customers, and he would also get free food. And so it's a wonderful way of working your way around the beautiful parts of Europe as a young man before he got a proper job and got married and settled down. So, anyway, he was washing dishes, serving tables at this little restaurant. And the owner of the restaurant asked everybody to come together because there'd been a mistake. The owner of the restaurant had ordered too much sauerkraut, which was pickled cabbage. Now, I know I have some monks in my monastery here in Perth who love that stuff. They can't eat as much of it. If I put even just a spoonful in my mouth, I have to spit it out again. It's so sour. It's one of those acquired tastes for some people, not everybody, in Germany. But anyway, they'd ordered so much sauerkraut, they had so much of it, that the owner said, for the next couple of weeks, if you want free food, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, it has to be sauerkraut, nothing else. If you want something else, you have to pay for it. And that was, that's not the way things are done when you're working in restaurants. That's one of the reasons why you don't get much pay, because you get free food. But this young American got very upset and said, he can't do this to us. That's not the way things are done. Now, why do we have to keep eating sauerkraut every day? That's not fair. Like many people, when you see that things are being done unfairly, we complain. But that is the point when the chef, this old man, the chef took this young American aside. And the first thing the chef did was to roll up the sleeve of his arm. And on the flesh of his arm, you could see the tattoo of some numbers. And for those people who've grown up in Europe, you know that that was a sign that he had been put in the concentration camps during the Second World War. He was Jewish. He said, I was in, of all places, Auschwitz. He said, every morning when I woke up, I didn't know whether I would go to bed that night or be executed. And said, now that is what we call a problem. Being in a concentration camp during the Second World War as a Jewish person. Eating sauerkraut every day, that's only an irritation. Please know the difference between problems and irritations. And that young American said that was one of the most wonderful things he'd ever heard. Because so much in life, we sacrifice our happiness and our contentment, our peace, over just irritations, not real problems. And if we know the difference between a problem and irritation, we can be far more peaceful in life. We don't overreact to things. Because as you know, that even when we get sick because of bacteria or viruses, some people have the same bacteria, the same viruses, but they don't get sick because their body has learned not to overreact, to these viruses. The body can get some sort of harmony with these viruses and learn how to cope with them without really getting so sick. And the story which comes up in these associations of when I give talks, I have to say they're personal stories because the personal ones are the ones I can relate to and trust more than anything I've heard from anybody else. And that was that old time I told you the story before when I had food poisoning. I don't know what I ate that morning, but if you've had food poisoning, it's very, very, very painful. A normal person, and I'm not exaggerating, a normal person would have gone to a hospital to try and overcome this. I'm a tough monk, and sometimes people don't realize I've got a lot of endurance. You have to have, having grown up in those forest monasteries in Thailand, which were very physically very tough, and having fevers and bitten by insects and stuff, and what else was I bitten by? Centipedes and scorpions and stuff. Never by a snake, thank goodness. But I do remember just how painful that felt. As the food poisoning got very, very strong, I was in my cave, and many of you have seen my cave. It's soundproof. So when I was screaming in agony, and it was real agony, it was automatic. I couldn't stop myself. Screaming very loud. No one outside would be able to hear me. It's the lovely thing about a cave, it gives you solitude and peace. If something happens to you inside there, no one knows. I think it's worth it to have that peace. But anyway, so having quite a few contractions in your tummy and screaming out loud, and I realized that if I did manage to open the door and crawl down to where the nearest telephone was, and then just call up the ambulance, it'd be half an hour before the ambulance would come. So that wasn't really worth it. So I did what I learned to do with meditation, the greatest vaccine for getting rid of physical problems, especially extreme pain. I didn't know that food poisoning was some sort of contaminated food which I'd eaten. It was already inside my guts, and it's too late to vomit it out. And it was those bugs or whatever they were, bacteria or virus, I'm not sure what it was, but they would be multiplying. And it was very painful. Anyway, after it was a few screams to myself, decided this needs to have exactly what I taught you at the guided meditation. To be aware of that pain instead of reacting to it. To really open the door of my heart to that pain, which is another way of saying be really, really, really mindful to it, aware of it, and be a wonderful thing to do to be kind to it. Always that wonderful story which I adapted from the Buddha of the monster who came into the Empress's palace. And the soldiers tried to say, "Get out of here, you don't belong." And the monster got bigger and more of a problem. When the queen came back, the empress, she said, "Welcome, welcome, monster. Thank you for visiting me." What a hard thing that is to welcome monsters. They look very, very dangerous, look very violent, very unpleasant. It's hard to welcome a monster. But that queen or empress was very wise. She welcomed the monster. And as soon as you welcome monsters, they start to relax themselves. They don't get so violent. They don't get so hard to look at. And in this particular case, the monster kept getting smaller and smaller every act of kindness which was given to that monster. Always remember that story, because the nature of us, when we have some tragedy, we have some pain, we have some difficulty, is to think that something is wrong. Get out of here, COVID, you don't belong. Get out of here, sort of bad government, you don't belong. Get out of here, no death or loss, you don't belong. And this particular story was saying the opposite. Welcome. Thank you for visiting me. It's hard to give that kindness, but when you do, the unexpected happens. The monster gets smaller and smaller and smaller, until in the story told by the Buddha, the monster got so small, one more act of kindness and it went completely away. And that's called just the anger-eating monster simile. Beautiful simile. In psychology, it was just a key story of how I deal with monsters in my life. I don't mean real monsters. If there was a monster came to visit me, I would sort of give it a hug, give it a cup of tea, let it sit down. You're not afraid of monsters. You're kind to them. If a snake came into the room, you'd be kind to it. And that's happened before, especially over in Thailand. Snakes coming into your kuti. Big ones, dangerous ones. They're not dangerous ones. They're just, I don't know what they want. A bit of peace, a bit of water or something. That's all. So you let them be. You're kind to them. And they'll never, ever harm you. But anyway, so going back to the bugs in my tummy, just I'm kind to them. I've learned. That's what you've learned as a monk. I learned some Pali, I learned the sutras and stuff, but the main thing I've learned is just my meditation, just basically how I can relate to the body, to the world outside and to the world inside, and how to relate to things even like food poisoning. And just, I don't know why, but I was almost surprised by how easy it was and how quick it was to take that agony, the internal cramps and screams, and just soften them. It took a while, half an hour, I think, but just every time you had that cramp in the stomach, you were just a little bit of kindness and a little bit more kindness and a little bit more kindness, a little bit more kindness. And the encouragement was that every time, every minute, the pain of the food poisoning, the cramps, they were less intense. I could notice that very simply. Every time it was less intense cramp in the tummy, less painful. I didn't need to scream so loud. And then it got less and 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 less. And gradually it disappeared totally. Of course, it surprised me. It never came back again. I wasn't suppressing it. If you're suppressing, as soon as you stop the force of suppression, it bounces back again. This it just vanished. But no more cramps, no more food poisoning. How can that work? Don't know physically, but I know just how the mind, the emotional world, when it reacts to even sicknesses with such kindness, with such softness, it does allow the body not to overreact to what is happening. Sooner or later, those bugs, they must have still been there in my tummy. they must have eventually just found their way out peacefully instead of causing too much contractions and pain in the tummy. That's how things work. So little by little, we just learn these extra skills on how to deal with the world of diseases and disappointments. And of course, disappointments. We all have disappointments in our life. Things don't go the way we want them to, or when we want them to, and we try our very best. And sometimes it's a surprise. I feel so much, wow, amazing, it worked. And we have I have a beautiful monastery here in Perth. They're building other monasteries all over the world. It's wonderful that every now and again you can go to wonderful places like Hong Kong and see all your old friends. When Freddie remarked about those people helping with this series of talks, I remember you all with a lot of fondness, not fondness and attachment, but joy of meeting you, seeing you, and all those wonderful things we've appreciated together, and the kindness of all those wonderful Hong Kongies, which I've been privileged to meet. And I say that sincerely. So little by little, you look at what happens in life, and sometimes it works out wonderfully. Have a wonderful trip. Obviously, the last year and a bit, haven't been able to get over to Hong Kong. I haven't been able to go hardly anywhere, not physically. But how wonderful it is to be able to give these talks on Zoom. Yesterday, before the talk to Hong Kong, I gave a talk to the Indonesians. They call themselves the Ahipasiko group. They're very wonderful people too. But it's the first time I'd seen them for over a year. And one of the gentlemen there, the leader, started crying just seeing me. It's almost like, the happiness of not being able to sort of see in person, but even seeing on the internet is something wonderful. So yeah, it's not a problem just not being able to visit one another. It's an irritation. And we can overcome many of those irritations in these beautiful ways. I know that Ajahn Brahmali, who you all know, he always tells me that I'm so positive about almost anything. And he said, how do you do that? Why do you do that? Because that positivity is a great vaccine to whatever happens to you in your life, but it's not something you can just fake. This happens to be something which is somehow natural. And there's so many things which I was fortunate to learn as a young man and as a young monk, which helped engender and strengthen that positivity in my life. Like little things which I've already said, when tragedy happens, I don't know, I still don't know why, but people, when somebody dies, they get upset. They die. It's part of life. To the point that, okay, this is an old Buddhist joke, that somebody died. And, sorry, let's go back a bit further. This Buddhist joke, there was a Buddhist who got the job as the coroner for the state government. He only lasted about a couple of months and he got the sack. He said, why? Because the job of a coroner is to determine the cause of death when people do pass away. And he said, how come he got the sack? Because he always gave the same answer to the cause of death. He said, why did they die? He said, because they were born. What a wonderful job that is, because you can't argue with that. The reason why anyone dies is because they're born. And if one focuses on that, that's dependent origination, for those of you who don't know. That was actually one of the first parts of, was the first part of dependent origination which the Buddha discovered. And sometimes we think that's so obvious. In theory it is, but do you really know that and understand that? Because if somebody dies, why did they die? Because they were born. It's not being sort of facetious or just lessening the impact of a death. But that's the main reason. When you understand that, it means you can expect these things to happen anytime for any reason. And when it does happen, you realize that, well, that they die now, I'll die later on. Don't know who goes first. It always reminds us of the impermanence of this life. And it's a wonderful thing to accept that and to really embrace it, to let it go right into your heart. The first part of dependent origination. If you're born, you're going to die anytime for whatever reason. So are you ready to die? Are you prepared? What that means is there's so many things in the world which were maybe irritations for us. They're just, and we thought they were problems and difficulties. We realize that just these things are just, we overemphasize them, whatever happens. When I do funeral services for people, which I do often, that I'm not the same person, obviously, different people. But when we do the funeral services, one of the things I love listening to at the funeral services are the eulogies, where we start talking about the person's life who has just ended. And always what really matters. And it's never how much money they have in the bank. It's never just what position they got in the company which they led. I was just told that little joke to my attendant today. They said, are you the chief executive officer of Buddhist Society of Western Australia? I said, no, I'm not the CEO. I'm the CUL. What does the CUL stand for? And I said, it means see you later. I'm getting out of here. So I'm the CUL of Bodhinyana Monastery. Get out of being with people as soon as I possibly can. See you later. But anyway, sorry. If no one else laughs at my jokes, I laugh at my jokes because I think they're very funny. But anyway, that when you sorry again. So when you understand about what the meaning of life is, I get all that data, not just from my own wisdom, but going to funeral services. And I still really respect this gentleman in the United States who he had some terminal cancer. He had about a month or two to go before the doctors thought he was going to die. You know what he did? He decided to hold his funeral while he was still alive. So, he found a funeral director and got the box and all this stuff and the celebrant and stuff. And so he had the box there, the coffin, it was empty, and he was sitting in the front row, still alive. And he said that he did this because, number one, he'd always been to other people's funerals, and they always said these marvelous eulogies, how wonderful they were. We always speak these wonderful words about somebody who's died when they're dead. He said, I want to hear that. I want to hear what people really think of me and all these wonderful things they say at funerals. I want to hear that before I die. There's some logic to that. Sometimes I thought of maybe doing that before I die, have my own funeral first, so I can hear all the nice things you say about me, I hope. But not only that, it shows you what the meaning of life is. Just what people value you for, the meaning you've given to the life of others, and how many people would come to that service. And why does it have to be at the time of a death? It's wonderful to have it when we're alive. And he also said, just being a bit sort of cynical, because I also want to see who comes to my funeral, so I have time to change my will if they're too lazy to turn up. of human nature. But anyway, little by little, we learn what's really important in life. You know what inspires other people also inspires yourself. And sometimes meaning of my life, if you want to know, there was so many years ago when I was a young monk and I was just being the attendant of this monk who was teaching a retreat. This was in the north of Scotland, beautiful place. But I was getting bored just listening to the same old stories again and again and again and again and again. And so this lady came in. She said to the teacher, said, "I just come in here to thank you for saving my life." And she said it with such sincerity. Now, in the chats yesterday or the day before, I forget which, the gentleman said that again to me. Said, "Thank you, Ajahn Brahm, for saving my life." And I saw that, and it just always just means so much. You helped and served somebody. A powerful vaccine. But anyway, that I just woke up and I paid full attention. It surprised me because this lady said it with sincerity, with meaning. So often in life, it's not what is said that's important, it's where it comes from. And you could feel the intensity of her thanks and gratitude. And she told a little story. As a student at a university in middle of England somewhere, that she had a bit of difficulty as a young woman at university. Maybe things didn't go the way they were expected to. And the doctor there, they've free doctors, psychologists, and whatever, just gave her some Valium, some antidepressants. And she just took them and she's been taking them ever since. Just a very quick pill. Doesn't really solve the problem of the patient, but it solves the problem of the doctor. They don't have to worry about her anymore. And so this poor lady was on these Valium pills for years. And then at a meditation retreat, you're supposed to keep precepts, Jata Rupa Rachata Patikahana Veramani, which means, not taking any alcohol or drugs. So this woman thought, no drugs? That means I can't take my Valium. But the wonderful thing was, and yet that's not true. Of course, any drugs which are prescribed drugs, of course you can take. That's not against the precepts. But anyway, this lady, she gave up taking a Valium for 9 days. And because, it was in a fishing village on the west coast of Scotland, it was calm, it was beautiful. People on noble silence. It was such a peaceful location and a peaceful time. It was difficult for her not to take her antidepressants, but it was actually not that bad. She could do it because the situation was helpful. It's one of the reasons why we have retreat centers. They're places like the little hospitals for the mind. So you can be nice and peaceful and calm, a great situation. Nothing much is asked from you. These are real retreats. I don't mean those retreats where you have to get up at a certain time, you have to do this, you have to do that. There's a bell for this, there's a bell for that. Oh my goodness, that must drive everybody crazy. The Buddha never had any bells under the Bodhi tree when he became enlightened, so I'll leave you with that one. But anyway, just such a peaceful place. So for 9 days, she was totally relaxed. But then the end of the retreat, and she thought, I've done 9 days without these pills. Let's try not taking the pills ever again. And that was quite a dangerous and courageous decision for her to make, because to get home, she said she had to go through the railway station in Glasgow. If you've been to Glasgow, even that time it was just a very, very overpopulated city. And the railway station, it was just crazy land. People going backwards and forwards, so much noise, announcements. And she said she almost just fell off the platform. But she managed to hold it together, just with every ounce of determination she had inside of her, get on that train and get back home. And then what she said next was quite beautiful in one sense, but troubling in another sense. She said she spent the next 1 month just sitting in a chair. In other words, she couldn't do very much as she waited for the maybe the toxins or the results of many years on Valium to actually come out of her system. But she did it. And now she said it's like a fog, a mist has disappeared from her life. It's like being able to see the blue sky in the morning, to be able to see the stars at night, to be able to feel the wind as it blows over the fields of England where she lived. She said she was alive again. And as a result of that, she said, "Thank you for saving my life." I remember the whole story. That's how important it was for me. Because when I heard that, I thought, wow, wouldn't it be just amazing as a Buddhist monk, as a teacher, if ever I get into that situation where I can teach and teach well and help just one person. And that's my determination, my resolution. With my whole life as a human being, if I can just teach just one person, and they come up to me no matter what situation they were in, and they come and say, "Ajahn Brahm, if it wasn't for what you told me, I'd be dead. Thank you for saving my life." Then my life would have its meaning. And of course, I don't know how many, wonderful thing to say, how many hundreds of people have actually said that and they meant it. They meant it 100%. That's beauty. Now, people say, "Ajahn Brahm, why didn't you receive any money? Why can't we just, charge, why can't I charge Biff that's in Hong Kong, $20 an hour, whatever the going rate is for teaching?" No way do you charge. This is a privilege for me to be able to teach, to be able to share some of the stuff which I've learned. And when you really help somebody big time, crikey, that's getting like $1 billion gift. What value can you put on a life? And it's not just solving this life. We've taught, shared something with them, and it means that knowledge, that wisdom, that freedom, that's going to go with them for the next life and the life after that as well. Beautiful, beautiful, powerful teachings. Not, solving problems through drugs or vaccinations, not solving problems with money, but solving problems with something much more powerful. This mindfulness and this kindness, this stillness, this insight which is in each one of us. Just allowing that to come out. So we know the difference between irritations and problems. And so it's so much more freedom in this world, where we don't argue or get upset about things which happen, which we can't stop, can't do anything about. This is how we actually learn how to have a very, very, very positive mind. And as we don't change the world as much as we change our perception of the world. The old two bad bricks in the wall story, powerful, powerful simile. And I focus these days, these are stories which, happened a long time ago, but I remember them. And sometimes the monks I live with ask me, "Please tell it again," because I always add a little bit extra to it. And this was the story of just why, when I made 2 mistakes in a wall which is still there, why did I just focus on mistakes? To the point that I wanted to destroy that wall. Honestly, it caused me so much suffering. All I can see is the 2 mistakes in the wall. And you realize that that's in life. Maybe having a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful life, if you can see it like I could see it. But 2 mistakes in the wall, something goes wrong today and it spoils your whole day. Why? Maybe somebody might die in your family. That spoils your year. Why? I miss them because I love them. That is not an excuse. Because you're not seeing things clearly. That is the reason why it spoils your whole year. The reason it spoils your whole year is you're not noticing all the other wonderful people in your life who need you and love you and care for you. Why is it that just one person dies? They're very close to us. We don't expect it. We're not prepared. Why? One of the things about Buddhism is we know that everyone will die. We're prepared for it. We should be anyway. It's not a negative thing. It's a beautiful thing. And an old person, basically their body is old, they're sick, they're weak. Oh, come on, love them enough to let them go. An old car, you wouldn't keep driving when it's so difficult and takes so much fuel and so many times to the garage to keep on the road. It's done its job. Leave it, get another life afterwards. More people believe in reincarnation, rebirth, which is a truth. Demonstrable, I say scientific truth. The evidence is compelling. It's just because of just stubbornness of the materialistic worldview that people don't accept that. But that's another talk totally. Or as I say to people, if you don't believe in reincarnation in this life, you certainly will in your next life. But anyway, back to the meaning of life. It's just different ways of looking at things and noticing that my mind when I was young was always focusing on the faults. Overly so. So I got a very distorted view of the world. You see, husbands and wives, both of them are wonderful people. But there's one or two problems in their relationship and they just focus on that to the point that they get divorced. Why do you do that? It's not a bad person you've married. It's just you've got a wrong view, a distortion. All you see is their faults. They really sort of upset you, their faults. But if you could focus on the beautiful parts of them, you wouldn't be upset anymore. Or those prisoners in jail, which I used to visit, you see their beautiful qualities. They all remembered their faults. And you see the beautiful qualities in them, and they see them in themselves. And when they leave jail, they never go back to jail again. Or like that, a prisoner over in our local prison, just 6 kilometers up the road from our monastery. And there he read my story about the 2 bad bricks in the wall. He'd been very depressed before, but now he was just a happy little prisoner. So apparently he was going around telling all his friends, oh, it's only 2 murders, 2 bad bricks in my wall, only 2 murders. That's a bit of an extreme, but why not? The murders are done. Can't bring those lives back, just don't do any more. And the only way he can do that is if he realizes some beautiful good stuff in him. People with schizophrenia, they're not schizophrenics. They're people who have schizophrenia, part of their life. They exhibit schizophrenic behavior. But does that mean they're schizophrenics? And that wonderful doctor in Singapore who understood that before I even taught him that. He says he doesn't treat schizophrenia. There's a professor, head of schizophrenia in the mental health unit in Singapore. He says he treats the other part of the patients. And that's seeing things in a different way. Treat the other part of the patient, which is not schizophrenic. And that grows, becomes bigger. I can't meditate, some of you said. What are you talking about? Of course you can meditate. Sometimes the meditation doesn't go well. Fine. Sometimes it goes well. Sometimes it's more peaceful than if you're watching the TV or just talking or writing or whatever. How peaceful is it? If you think the meditation is just blissing out into jhanas, that's the only thing which really counts. That's wrong. Meditation is learning how to find peace in this moment. Peace. Not enlightenment, not bliss, but peace. Just like I taught at the beginning in the guided meditation, you could feel peace. You know peace. It was there. It's not that difficult. Later on, of course, that peace will just really grow and will be mammoth peace. And that's when you get the bliss states and wow states. But just the peace is enough for now. Thank you, peace, for coming to visit me. The door of my heart is open to you. Thank you, peace. So there we go. That's 1:45 now. And that's a little impromptu talk. Of course, it's not finished. Talks are never finished. There's always another talk, another organization, another Zoom somewhere in the world. But that's why some of the people who are listening today, some of them are usual suspects. Every talk which I give somewhere in the world, they manage to get online and hear it. So anyway, thank you for listening. And now we find a nice time. Someone just sent me a nice email. You gave me new life instead, Dharma Father. Thank you. And now is the time to actually give a wonderful, do some loving kindness meditation. Loving kindness meditation means being kind to your bladder or to your bowels and taking them to the toilet so that you can be kind to your body and experience the wonderful sense of release when you are free.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Okay.
Sadhu, sadhu. So everyone, now let's have a letting go break.
Yeah. And I will do it too today.
How's the weather today, Ajahn?
Hot.
Is it hot? Still very hot.
It's still very hot, yes.
Nice, so you can have some sauna.
Yeah, 34, 36 today or somewhere. That's degrees centigrade.
Oh.
But I told some of the Thai visitors today that I remember that even when I was a Western monk living in Thailand, I remember the 3 seasons we used to have in Thailand.
Yeah.
3 seasons were the hot season, the very hot season, and the hot and wet season. They're all hot.
Yeah, I remember when I was working in the UK, and then my colleagues, they said they visit Hong Kong, and they can't understand why Hong Kong people are wearing like really thick jackets in what they consider summer, which is actually winter in Hong Kong.
Yes, yes. Yeah, no. You get used to different types of climate. And that's one of the reasons why I love my cave. It's so cool in there. So even though it's 36 or 7 outside this afternoon, it was 21 degrees in my cave. There's no cooling system in there. There's no aircon. It's just naturally cool.
That's nice for you, Ajahn.
Oh,
I
yeah.
imagine for the other monks, it's really just way tough. Like Perth can be like 40 degrees in summer and then like nearly 0 degrees in winter.
Yeah, but sometimes if people don't like caves, they like the windows and stuff. If you're a meditator, this cave is the most beautiful place. You don't need windows. You don't need to see out of anything. There's enough ventilation, only a small amount of ventilation, but when you're just meditating, you're not actually breathing very much at all. You don't need much oxygen. If you're doing push-ups or just running up and down or cooking or something, that's a lot of energy, so you need more oxygen. But usually you don't need so much oxygen, so you don't need much ventilation. So it keeps this beautiful, cool temperature all the time. The only dangers are, of course, if I did, no, I'll eventually will die sometime, but I've got no plans for it yet. But if you're inside your cave and something goes wrong, we're gonna have a hard time finding if is Ajahn Brahm meditating or is he dead? I told monks they can just leave me in the cave. It'll be my mausoleum.
Wow.
Anyway, I shouldn't start talking like this because some people get very worried. What's Ajahn Brahm talking about? Has he got some plans he hasn't told us about? Ajahn Brahm, please don't die.
Yeah, please don't die. Some people had it on the Q&A.
No, when the sun goes down, then the moon can shine.
Who's your moon, Ajahn?
Venerable moon.
Oh.
I'm not saying. Oh, I've got a few more minutes yet to go. Some water. Anyway, Freddie, how is the COVID situation in Hong Kong?
Because it is
still bad.
Not that bad. Well, it's actually it's kind of I can't really count which waves is it. We had the fourth wave already. I'm not sure if we are in the fifth or sixth or seventh. Anyway, it's just I think it's getting better because people are getting vaccine.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
because what the people in Singapore were saying was they're trying to get a bubble with Australia so they can allow flights between Singapore and Perth.
Yeah,
They're just wondering what.
I think this is quite a good idea. I just don't really sure. I'm not sure about the name. The bubble name is kind of like it could be burst anytime.
Burst the bubble, yeah. But no, Australia has just been pretty amazing. There hasn't been any locally acquired cases in Western Australia for such a long time now.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard that Perth got one case and then the whole city locked down.
Yeah, it's one case, but it didn't last that long.
So is the monastery still open for are you still going on arms round?
Oh yeah. It's like business as usual.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's very fortunate. That's why sometimes I admit that I don't really appreciate just how difficult it is in many other places and countries in the world. And a few times that you get people who are like doctors who go on these retreats And they actually say they just haven't almost slept for days.
Yeah.
And they have to make these really terrible decisions.
Yeah.
And they can only see so many people, and they know the people they turn away will die.
Yeah.
They have to choose between life and death.
Yeah.
It's so stressful, and of course they're working so hard. And that's why I give even there to sort of mention to them that it doesn't matter how much work you have, just go to the toilets, the restroom, and sit on that seat. Don't sort of do anything except just calmly close your eyes and just rest as deeply as you can for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And don't think about things. Don't try and chant or whatever. Just rest.
Yeah.
And when you come out afterwards, that 15 minutes of rest, that could just really give you a boost of energy so you can help more people more efficiently.
Yeah. I think sometimes people are just guilty of having rest. Like, oh, what if people die during those 15 minutes?
Yeah, some people will, but more people will die if a doctor is tired,
Yeah, exactly.
exhausted.
Anyway,
So,
Ajahn,
yeah,
let's
go.
go for the Q&A.
Yes, go. Here we go. Hi, there's some camera. Hello, Ajahn. How do we evoke kindness in moments of... I'm going to put this one down. How do we evoke kindness in moments when we are tired or very down? Sometimes when I'm down or stressed, it's very hard to be in the present or focus on giving kindness to myself. Very good question. Why do you get tired? And that's, that sometimes you have to take some responsibility for not getting tired. In other words, that when you have a few moments, don't go and catch up on doing more things, catch up on relaxing and resting. It's mentioned this many times before. When it came from me, how heavy is the cup which I'm holding? The longer I hold it, the heavier it feels. After 15 minutes, my arm is really aching, and I'm a stupid monk for doing that. When this cup gets too heavy to hold, you put it down. Relax, rest. When your arm gets recovered, then you pick it up again. You can hold it for another 15 minutes, no trouble. What we do, though, as human beings, we just don't know how to put down our responsibilities and duties, either because of guilt or whatever. But the reason shows you that if you can relax and rest, so you don't get so tired, then when you go to the work, the office, to the consulting room as a doctor or whatever, when you go back there, you're in such a much nicer mood. You've got more energy, you can be more perceptive, you don't make so many mistakes, you get more things done in less time. You're more efficient, productive. So try and get the right words for it. If you want to be productive in life, learn how to rest. And just, I can't resist a bit of funny stories. That's one of the reasons why, Hong Kong knows this, that when the British were in Hong Kong, they would always have a tea break in the morning and a tea break in the afternoon. Is that correct, Freddie? I see you there.
Ajahn, I'm too young.
You're too young. Well, that was a tradition. Always have tea break in the afternoon, tea break in the morning, tea break in the afternoon. And then they stopped that. When they stopped that, they lost their efficiency. And so the whole empire just disappeared. That's my reason for it. So that's exaggeration, but there's a lot to be said for enforcing almost like a break in the morning, a break in the afternoon. Don't work for too long in one go. Otherwise, your brain... I've done this before, that just been on the computer trying to write an email or just do an article for somebody, and it just doesn't come. So I'm tired. And other times, you just have a good rest, a nice meditation, and it just comes out so quickly, so beautifully. And look, that sort of book, the first one I wrote, Opening the Door of Your Heart. I was doing a mindful retreat at the time. I just did one story every afternoon. I spent 1 hour, one every afternoon, and I just wrote it out by hand. There's no mistakes in the manuscript. And half the book was done in 15 days. It was incredible. I look at the manuscript now. you want to have a look at the manuscript? I think that's, yeah, I've got the manuscript. I'll show you the manuscript. One moment, please.
It's the first time we see the manuscript. Wow, that is really big, Ajahn.
Is it clear enough?
This one. Yeah, I think I can see it.
It's
Yeah,
all
but
written
because,
out by hand.
yeah,
Can you see it, Freddie?
actually, Ajahn, let me
Clear enough?
stop the screen share to show everyone. Yeah. Yeah. Wow, really neat writing.
But anyway, that's the manuscript. No mistakes. Just write it down. And that story there is called The Two Bad Bricks. This is on a meditation retreat, just getting down, writing it down. No mistakes. So easy. That's, oh, sorry, that's writing it down. So easy. No mistakes. Anyway, so that's how we do things without getting tired. Ajahn Brahm, should we, as Buddhists, just ignore those serious things going on now in Myanmar, demonstrations in Hong Kong and Bangkok, Asian hate crimes in the States, etc.? Please guide a bit. If there's something to do, then do it. If there's nothing to do, you have to wait until something gets done. There's so many ways of acting. And I think at the moment in Myanmar, the monks there have done a declaration. This is the senior monks, the head monk council. They have decided to make an announcement. They're not going to support the military at all. And I want to see how that plays out, because that even the military, they come across, they want to present themselves as being good Buddhists. But when all the monks say, no, you're not good Buddhists, that may make an impression. Wait and see. But social injustice, we want to try and obviously stop that as best we possibly can. Human rights violation, abuses, we try and lessen those as best we can. But sometimes when one throws things at those abusers or the police or whatever, that type of violence, I don't know if that is ever justified. There's many other ways of dealing with injustice, and sometimes it's patience, waiting for a while. I often say that the Berlin Wall, in my lifetime, I never thought that would come down. The wall, which was symbolic of the distance between the communist East of Europe and the more liberal West. And it came down with hardly any violence. And that was actually just, it meant so much to me, just a lot of patience, a lot of sacrifice. Eventually goodness prevails. What can we do to lessen the world's problems is, again, be kind, be gentle, learn some wisdom, and learn how not to overreact. Anyway, Ajahn, my mother is 81, physically healthy, but her mind is toxic, probably due to slight senility. She speaks unkind words about people that had hurt her. I've told her cursing people already deceased is bad karma. What should I do? Will she carry this bad habit into her next lifetime? I don't know if she's always been like that, because sometimes when you get to your 80s, your character you built up over your life is very hard to stop. I was fascinated when I would visit my mother in the dementia ward of a hospital. It was closed, locked. But you'd see that people with dementia as Alzheimer's, I should really learn the difference between those two. But with the difference between the people in that ward, there were some people who were just so peaceful, so positive, and that's because that's what they were like before. It's like they weren't able to change their character at that time of their life. Fortunately, my mother, she was just always a positive influence, so she never really complained. But my goodness, she could walk. And she could only walk down the corridors of this hospital. But she'd walk to the end, and then she'd walk back again and walk to the end. And for me, that'd be so boring, but she didn't really have much memory. So it was always going down to the end of the corridor for the first time. So it's quite sort of, I saw the positive side of those things. But anyway, her mind is toxic. Just, it says probably at old age or sickness is not that good. But I don't know, maybe your mother, your memory of your mother when she was young and not so old, because she was a beautiful person. So remember the beautiful things. And the other thing to do is that when you're with her, if she says something toxic, ignore it. Don't respond. If you said something nice to people, they'd say, "Oh, Mum, that was a wonderful thing you said. Marvelous, well done." So see if you can reinforce her positive behavior and just ignore her negative. So like you don't hear negativity. Okay, I've worked for Charitable Foundation for 4 years and beginning to really feel and believe that social injustice, human rights violation, abuses will never end no matter what kind of interventions we use. It all comes from greed, hatred, and delusion. Yeah. What can we do to lessen the world's problems? Is lessen greed, hatred, and delusion as much as you possibly can. And to try and find a world where things like some of the things which they're saying these days, where income inequality is lessened. Now we try and lessen gender inequality, have more opportunities no matter what gender you are, what sexual orientation you are, or even what age you are. If you can do the job, why shouldn't you be allowed to do it, even if you're 80 or something? And also just for people with other deformities. But also that we must remember just the inequality because of money inequality. Some people are rich, some people are poor. Can't we somehow lessen that and not have such a bigger diversity of incomes in our world? Because one of the things you find where there's more money, more power, that's where we get bullying from. Some people more power than others. If we can somehow even out the field, then it's not much bullying anymore and not much injustice anymore. So that's one of the things which some people mention, the income inequality in our world. See if we can do something about that. Anyway, hello, I'm interested in the existential parts in Buddhism. Does this mean that humans or any matter at all just arise by themselves based on the conditions leading us into existence, that existence truly precedes essence? We really can't know. Why must it be that these are the conditions? Again, you can think like that as much as you like, but is that really going to help sort of solve the COVID in your body if you have the COVID? These are nice things to think about. And what was that simile of the Buddha? The person got shot by an arrow, and the doctor came and said, "I don't pull the arrow out yet until I find out who shot the arrow, why they shot the arrow, what class they were, what caste they were, what the wood of the arrow is." And the most important thing is, if there's suffering, to get rid of suffering and find a way to relieve the pain of your life and other people's lives. The nature of existence is interesting, but it's really irrelevant. When your children are in a protest and troops are firing bullets at you. So, but the answer is that the nature of existence is a process, an empty process. So I mentioned yesterday, one thing causes another thing, which causes another thing. And the best simile which I've ever come up with is the two mangoes. You eat a mango, you put the seed in the garden, and the seed in the garden sort of germinates, splits, a little green shoot comes up and slowly, day by day, grows bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, pushes its way through the top of the soil, becomes like a piece of grass in the soil, but that keeps on growing and it gets wooden in the center and it's a small sapling. It grows, 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 and eventually becomes a small tree. The tree puts out branches. At the end of the branches After a few years, you get little flowers. Then the flowers get pollinated, and the base of the flowers becomes a little bulb, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then that becomes a mango, and it gets riper and riper and riper until it gets that color where you know it's edible now, and you take it from the tree and you eat it, and it's delicious. It's a process. And every stage of that process is a cause and effect, one thing causing another. The seed is not the future mango tree. Even much of the DNA will change in the journey from one thing to another thing. And every time it changes, there's nothing, it's a cause, and then there's the effect, but there's nothing in between. There's nothing which is there in the original mango, which is there in the little piece of grass coming up through the ground. It's not there in the little tree. It's not there in the flower. It's always changing. So where consciousness actually came from, there's only one little place in the suttas where the Buddha posits that even plants have a rudimentary form of consciousness, and they can develop. It's almost like evolution of the species, but not evolution of the physical bodies which minds inhabit, but evolution of the mind itself. Of your mind has a history. It's evolved from even maybe plants. It's an interesting idea, but it wasn't really considered that important. Next one. Dear Ajahn, why is it that most of us can't recall our past life if rebirth is real? The people who mostly recall their past lives are those ones, the kids, up to about 6 or 7 years of age. And of course, if you've had a kid who recalls their past life, you're not really interested when they say, I want to see my real mum, and they're saying that to you, and that's your 2 or 3 or 4-year-old. So, first of all, that spontaneous memory of past life is only just usually for very young children, and it's not encouraged at all because it's problematic. And the question says why most of us can't recall our past lives. You can. You don't want to. You don't want to go through that process of training yourself in meditation to remember your past lives. Or maybe you're not able to let go enough to be hypnotized and recall your past lives. But don't say you can't. You haven't yet. It's like people say, I can't become enlightened. So yes, you can. Probably won't, but the possibility is there. So each one of you has a possibility to recall your past lives. You haven't done it yet. Are you really interested? Dear Ajahn Brahm, I acknowledge the pain that I get hurt from the people I love. I would like to forgive for hurt. Sometimes I can, but sometimes I can't. What and how should I do? First of all, remember the people you love are not perfect beings. They're not enlightened. They will say and do things which disappoint you sometimes. But that doesn't mean that the 2 bad bricks in the wall, that your relationship with them is cause for you not to put things in perspective and say, yeah, that's a stupid thing you did, but you've done so many wonderful things in your life that you're worth forgiving. And number 2 is that if you don't forgive, then you're allowing that hurt to continue on and on and on and on. The little simile to make it easy to understand is somebody calls you an idiot. Right, somebody calls me an idiot. Ajahn Brahm, you're an idiot. And I think, why did they call me an idiot? They've got no right to call me an idiot. I'm not an idiot. And then, if you're wise, you realize that they've called you an idiot 3 more times. Every time you remember it, they call you an idiot 1 more time. So every time you remember the hurt you got from the people you love, you're allowing them to hurt you again. So the pain is really your fault. You don't know how to let go. So allow people, your enemies or your friends, only to hurt you once. Just like a year or two ago, when somebody broke into our workshop at our monastery and stole some tools. Straight away, he said, look, they can steal tools, but they're not going to steal happiness and our ability to forgive those people who stole chainsaw and other stuff and generators. And of course, what happened after that theft, no, I forgave them straight away, whoever that thief was. You know, you can steal things, but you'll never be able to steal our happiness and forgiveness and the fact we're Buddhist monks. So we let the pain go. And then apparently we found out everything was insured anyway. So with the insurance payout, we got new tools, better quality, cheaper, but higher quality, and we modernized our chainsaws and generators. And it was such a good deal that I always want to find out who that thief was, and so I can thank him. And maybe in a couple of years' time, when we need some more tools, invite them back. I can't do that. But anyway, why can't we just forgive? It's in your interest to forgive. About the 4 planes of liberation, how is it so? Why must it be so? Why is that the order of things, or is it something the Buddha found out that is related to us with no idea how it came to be? If we choose not to believe in anything, does it not apply to us? The 4 planes of liberation. I'm not quite sure what you mean by the 4 planes of liberation. Does it mean just the 4 stages of liberation, like stream meaning, once returning, non-returning, and full enlightenment? If it does, then that's just the nature of life. You know, why is there a moon and an earth and a sun? If we don't believe that, does it mean the moon doesn't exist? Of course it still exists, because many other people know it exists. So the 4 planes of liberation, they're real. And it's the best description of them by the Buddha is the simile of the shipwrecked sailors. I won't go into the full simile, but there was one sailor was floating in the ocean, in the sea, having been shipwrecked, and he managed to see in the distance dry land. So that's called a stream. You know what real safety is, what nibbana, enlightenment, truly is. And then the second sailor is swimming towards the dry land, as you obviously would. I mean, it'd be really dumb. You see dry land and not try and get to it. So that's a once returner, once been towards the dry land. And the third sailor is so close to dry land, he doesn't need to swim anymore. He can stand up in the surf and he feels something solid under his feet and he can walk through the waves to the shore. That's the non-returner. And the fully enlightened one, the 4th plane of liberation, fully enlightened. So you're under a nice shade of a coconut tree, having a good cup of tea, relaxing. You've made it to dry land, you're safe. The cup of tea is not in the original sutta, I must agree. Hi, Ajahn. I have committed adultery last year when I was emotionally in turmoil. If I ask my husband to forgive me for my wrongdoing, hey, where's that gone? Oh, yeah. If I ask my husband to forgive me for my wrongdoing and causing hurt without giving the details, is this okay for asking forgiveness in order to move on? Please help. Oh, that's Pete up the vote. Yeah, people make mistakes in life. Hopefully it's only once. You're emotionally in turmoil. If you have a very good relationship with your husband, this is what I do when I do marriage ceremonies for people. I tell them that when you're married, especially if you can start this when you're newly married, please tell your partner that you have amnesty as long as you tell the truth. So you can tell your husband, look, you can tell me anything, whatever you do. And I will always forgive you if you tell me the truth and just want to make amends for the mistakes you made. And the same with me. I realize that human beings, that whether it's because of emotional turmoil, sick, or just make mistakes, that sometimes we do make mistakes which hurt one another. But the most wonderful thing is if we put truth, honesty, is more important in the relationship than any other mistake. Which means that if your partner honestly says what they did, then they're forgiven. And then you learn to make sure that together you don't let that mistake ever happen again. And that is beautiful. That's the sorts of thing which they did in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission under Desmond Tutu and Nelson Mandela in South Africa. Doesn't matter what crime you've done, what murder you've done, as long as you tell the truth, you're forgiven. Because finding out the truth is more important than anything else. So I'm not quite sure what your relationship is with your husband, but if it's really at that level, how wonderful it is. You can tell someone it will hurt your husband, but say, look, it's more important that you tell the truth. And I'm really, really, really sorry. I'll try never to do that again. And if you do that, make sure you never do it again. Hi, Ajahn. My son is very quiet and has low self-esteem. He has a kind nature because he helps others and shows concern for others. How can we help him open up more in his daily life? Don't know how old your son is, but if he is reasonably young, just let him just be quiet. And he has so many good qualities there. Kind nature, helps others, shows concern for others. To increase his self-esteem, let all those others which he helps and shows concern for, maybe find out who they are, and on his birthday, have a party where they all come and say thank you to your son. Thank you for all the kindness and goodness which you've given for us. And just that's a surprise, and let your son realize just how well he's loved. And he doesn't be very quiet. What a wonderful son that is. The self-esteem, that's not such a good thing. So if all those people he helped, all those people who love him and concern for him, if they invite them to a special surprise party and let them know that they're here for him, that might realize just what a wonderful being he is. Anyway, dear Ajahn Brahm, how do you pray if you do? How do you, for a humble wish like, may I be free from restlessness, anger, or harming myself? Is it okay to pray in that way? Yeah, it's okay if it works. But how do I pray? I don't pray for myself. Sometimes I make aspirations for others. So somebody may be sick, and then you sprinkle some holy water on them and said, may you be happy and well. And I really do that with full intention, understanding the nature of my mind is very strong, and how you can affect other people, and how you can spread your good energy to someone else. And that energy just does have an effect on other people. So it's wonderful to be able to do that. It's okay to pray this way. Find out what works, but praying is not asking a favor from somebody. A favor is giving your energy to someone else for a good cause. How can one get himself or herself out of depression? Nothing seems right for a long time. Okay, first of all, don't get depressed about being depressed. In other words, depression is part of life, like all sicknesses. And so you're depressed. So first of all, understand depression. What actually is it? What does it feel like? And see if you can make peace with your depression. And if you make peace with depression, you find that there's some days you're not so depressed, some days you're more depressed. Find out why. Depression is not a stable thing which is there all the time, or the same intensity. There are days when you're really depressed, there's days when you're not so depressed. Why? So little by little, you can find out the cause of depression. You can find out the cause of overcoming depression for yourself. And little by little, you find that depression is like a brain which is just so tired. It's exhausted. So it just, whatever it sees is grey, even though the sun is shining. Whatever you taste, your favorite food, it has no taste. Everything is dull and grey when you're depressed. because your brain is very tired. If you learn how to meditate in a proper way, and you can meditate when you're depressed, all you do is you make peace, be kind, be gentle. You don't do anything with what you're experiencing. You're kind to it. And you can be kind to so many things. If you have like a pet, like a dog or a cat at home, or a little rabbit or something, that will take you out of depression very quickly because you just give kindness to this little animal who loves you and you love it. You've got to get the right type of animal though. And then that kindness allows you to get some energy back in your brain. And soon you have enough energy that you don't get depressed anymore. The brain is re-energized, recharged. If you try and fight depression, of course, the little energy you have, you're wasting. It takes a long time. Anyway, I'm going to speak because there's a lot of questions. Hi there, I'm from Malaysia, and I heard that the previous chief reverend of the Buddhist Institute sometimes conversed with the Devas at 3 a.m. plus under the Bodhi tree. Ha ha ha. Does this happen to monks usually after meditating the access to see the different realms, converse with other beings in the open? Oh my goodness me. I'm not sure which Buddhist institute you mean, but the chief reverend, probably means Venerable Dharmapala, when he was still alive, a wonderful monk. But I don't think that he got up at 3 o'clock in the morning to chant under the Bodhi tree at Brickfields Vihara with the Devas. Look, why at 3 o'clock in the morning? Devas are available all times of day and night. They don't just go to sleep during the day. So that has been like almost like something which people have thought for a long time. But then I question that. And converse with the Devas. Usually the Devas may be around to listen to good talk, something which interests them. So anyway, that seems a bit sort of far-fetched to me. However, after meditating, the access to see into different realms, converse with other beings is open. It's sort of open, but you don't abuse those abilities because Devas are very busy beings. And of course, you don't want to use that for your own personal glorification or to do things so that, that somebody asks you and they can win the lottery. That's not the reason to talk with Devas. If it's something really, really important, something inspiring, then they may help you. Hi, Ajahn Brahm. How do we decrease the hatred towards certain individuals, especially one who is domineering? How can we improve our communication into a healthy one? He's a sibling of mine, a working man in late 20s, busy working on his laptop all the time, and his mood never gets better. If he's busy working on his laptop all the time, you can ignore him until his behavior does improve. So in other words, people only have the power which you give them. And so having hatred towards him, why? Sort of, he's the one who's misbehaving. Why are you suffering? So if that's what you want to be like, sibling, that's your karma, your job. And little by little, if you ignore him more, then he will come to you. And you can just say, look, I'm not going to talk to you if you're going to be domineering. And just walk away. Don't argue the point. Let him know how you feel. As a parent, after understanding more about Dharma meditation, I hope my kids go on the right path when they become adult. Is it okay to teach our children to become nuns, monks in the future? How come no parents around me are thinking like this? Or is it I'm wrong in putting this option to them? Put it out there. That's a possibility for them. It's wonderful to become a monk or a nun, but not all people want to become monks or nuns. And as many other people can find a nice way to include meditation and Dharma in their lives and without becoming nuns. But one thing you can teach your children is like to live more simple lives. And when you take them to monasteries and you see very good monks and nuns, those good monks and nuns haven't got wealthy possessions. They haven't got fancy cars. They haven't got money in the bank, but they're very happy. And it is a very powerful statement, a very loud teaching. How can these monks and nuns be some of the happiest people you've ever seen without having to have great possessions? So it teaches your children that happiness doesn't lie with a big house or a big reputation and a big company and lots of money in the bank. That is not happiness, because you can see like monks and nuns who are even happier than that. And little by little, you change your children's understanding of what is really worthwhile in this world. Ajahn Brahm, how does someone who has suffered lots of personal tragedy and at the depth of their despair and hopelessness find hope and feel positive again? You know that once, this is one of those old stories, once a person went over to the temple, and when they came home, they found that someone had dumped a truckload of dung in front of their door. And the two things about that truckload of dung: no one saw it coming, so you can't ring up someone to take it away. And number two, you didn't order it, but it's there for you. You're stuck with a truckload of dung which isn't your fault. And there's two things which people do with truckloads of dung. One of them, the first person, puts pieces of their dung in their pockets, up their shirt, down their skirt, and they carry it around with them. And you will find if you carry around stinky, smelly dung in your pockets and up your shirt, that you lose a lot of friends. You smell. And that is like something terrible happens to you. You suffer lots of personal tragedy, and you carry that around with you. You lose a lot of friends. Quite naturally, just as no one likes to be with somebody who is miserable. But the second person, they don't put the dung in their pockets. They put the dung in a wheelbarrow and they push it around the back of their house into their garden, or a friend's garden will do, and they dig it in. That's a lot of hard work, digging in the personal tragedy of your life. But once you dig it in, rather than try and get rid of it, you can have the most beautiful gardens in the world. Gardens which are much more beautiful than the houses of rich people. Fruit which is more delicious than you can find in any shops because of all the dung of your life. So you've had personal tragedy in the depth of despair and hopelessness. The hope is you can use all of that. And if you really dig it in properly, you will find that you will have a garden in your heart with so much wisdom and so much compassion. You share it like the fruit from your trees and the flowers from your garden to all your friends. When you understand what suffering is and how to use it, then you never think it's too much. You can always have some more fertilizer. Next question. Recently I read the Kesa Putiya Sutta. It records the Blessed One's advice of identifying unwholesome teachings. One of them is logical reasoning. Ajahn Brahm, please give guidance if we need to abandon logical reasoning. What is the right attitude and approach to Dhamma? Logical reason is not something which you decry, but it's not something which is not good enough. In other words, it depends upon where you start your assumptions. And from assumptions, you use logical reasoning. Sometimes logical reasoning can be a bit deceptive. You think it's logic, but you haven't seen things clearly enough. I'll give you an example of that. This is just from my physics background. And maybe you've all heard that you cannot travel faster than the speed of light. And say Alpha Centauri, the nearest star, what was it, about 7 or 8 light years away? You cannot travel faster than the speed of light, so certainly you can't get to Alpha Centauri, instead of after 7 or 8 years. That's wrong. You can get to Alpha Centauri in about 10 minutes with a fast enough spacecraft and the ability to withstand all the accelerating powers. The point is that what seems to be logical is actually not seeing everything. And of course, it was Einstein's theory of relativity, which just showed that you can get there with people on Earth, it's 7 or 8 years before you arrive, but for you get there in 10 minutes. You come back again, another 10 minutes, and you find that 16 years has gone past. And all the government in Hong Kong has totally changed. No more COVID. It's only been 20 minutes for you. It's a nice idea, isn't it? Anyone want a ticket? 20 minutes round trip to Alpha Centauri, come back 20 years in the future. Anyway, so that's why logical reasoning is not enough. It is not certain. But it's still, if something is logically unreasonable, then of course we question any Dhamma which is logically unreasonable. But the best Dhamma is not through logical reasoning, but just through the experience of your own heart. And the fact it does lead to peace and to freedom and wisdom, kindness. So you know the Dhamma by what it does. You know good COVID vaccine because it cures that disease. Dear Ajahn, on healing the deep-rooted emotional distress from unhappy childhood, how to make use of mindfulness. Where's it gone? Ajahn, healing deep-rooted emotional distress from unhappy childhood, how to make use of mindfulness in the body, as you mentioned in the case of the panic attack student, to help myself. I've tried cognitive behavioral therapy and meditation, but it doesn't do much. Okay, deep-rooted emotional distress from unhappy childhood. I don't know if that is one or two experiences or many experiences, but some of this Dhamma, which I've taught, other people have adapted and they've had wonderful results. And this story, it just really moves me because it really impresses me. I saw the results of this and it's more powerful. A group over in Perth called the Australian Society of Survivors of Torture and Trauma. And this a group funded by the government who deals with people who are survivors of some of the worst trauma and torture in underground cells and just beaten, raped, tortured, but somehow or other they survive physically. And they come to a country like Australia, which is physically free, but they carry all these memories of torture and trauma from their past. And how on earth do you give them freedom? Physically they're free, but emotionally they still have these flashbacks and trauma of what they've been through, some of their friends who didn't make it. How can they get a life after all of that? And of course I was invited to this place, not to give them any teachings. It was how they wanted to say thank you to me. Because some of those things which I teach, which I've taught you, they put into practice and they're incredibly effective. And some of the people who are survivors of torture and trauma would come to our center in Perth. And they tell me their stories and it's just gross things they endured, how they survived that. But also they're emotionally free as well. And they told me what they did. And it was the story of the opening the door of your heart, which was one of the key therapies. They had to feel safe, ready to do it, not forced, because force, compulsion was some of the cause of their problems. You can't force someone to. They feel loved, safe. They sit down in a chair somewhere and they imagine this Valentine's Day heart in their chest. Not a real heart, because I've seen real hearts, you've seen real hearts, they're so complex. It's hard to imagine one of those, but the Valentine's Day heart is easy. Imagine that in your chest. And imagine it has two big doors. And you open both of them. Inside your heart is you. That part of you you're at peace with, at ease with. That part of you which, is not being tortured, not being abused. All those wonderful memories of you having happy times, that's inside. And then you look outside of your body, on the ground, in the cold, unaccepted. It's those little girls or boys who were badly beaten. Don't understand why. Were raped multiple times. Who were just abused, tortured. They're all outside. What you do, imagine this ladder, steps coming down from your heart, down to the ground. And you, the part of you can live with, shouting down to those people who are you many weeks ago, months ago, years ago as a child. You shout down to them and say, come up. The door of my heart is open to you too. Come in. And all these memories of you as a young girl was just badly abused. I was a boy who was neglected, beaten. All those you've kept out for far too long. Shaking, trembling, walking up those stairs. So they meet the top, the doors of your heart. And they come inside, you hug, cry. You're part of me. You're who I am. Come in. And learning how to embrace the pain of your past instead of trying to blame anybody. Letting it come in, one by one. It's traumatic, it's cathartic, but as you let all these beings come in, you're not ashamed of them anymore. And you find that solves the problem. And again, seeing seeing the women, and just brilliant, amazing beings, shining beings. That's just a metaphor. You can see they're at peace with themselves. I'd rather that never happened, but that's who they are. And they're at peace with that. So the trauma is gone. When I saw that, and it was real sort of solutions to problems I thought would never be solved. And that was amazing Dhamma. Oh, anyway, so you may try that when you're ready for it. Sit down quietly, safely, and just open the door of your heart to that little child who was unhappy. Don't try and get rid of it. Don't blame anybody. And just allow that little child, those many children from your past, who you were, to walk up the stairs into your heart. Give them a big hug. You're who I am. Welcome. Trying to get rid of things, which is the problem, not the things itself. Okay. Since there are celestial beings, devas, Mara and all, did the Buddha also know if there were extraterrestrial beings, or could it be that these extraterrestrial beings are also actually one other plane of existence too? There is one sutta where the Buddha mentions aliens. Believe it or not, when I saw that, I thought, oh, that's interesting. But they weren't sort of really that useful to talk about. We said, yeah, of course, other planes of existence, other realms, other world systems, there'll be other beings there too. But whether they can contact one another, very doubtful. I still remember the saying from one of my favorite cartoon series, Calvin and Hobbes. The sure proofs of extraterrestrial intelligence is that they never visited Earth. Intelligent beings will never come to this place the way we treat this place. Anyway, Ajahn, is it also attachment If we worry so much for other people, even if we think for their good, is it attachment to worldly matters, attachment to samsara? How to differentiate attachment and loving kindness? Very simply, if there's something you can do, then do it. But too often we do something when there's nothing really to do, and we just make things worse. So we think for their good, but is it for their good? Are you wise enough to know what is for their good and what is not for their good? So sometimes it's like that old story of the Boy Scout. He needed to do a good deed for the day. So he helped an old lady cross the road. It was a very busy road. So the Boy Scout helped the old lady cross the road. But then he didn't want to go. So that's symbolic. Very often that people have loving kindness. They want to do loving kindness, but the person doesn't want to receive it. There's no problem there at all. They're just imagining a problem. So sometimes we need wisdom to be able to practice loving kindness and know, worrying so much for other people, maybe we should be worrying for ourselves and taking a break and taking some peace. So loving kindness must also be with wisdom. Otherwise, loving kindness can create a lot of trouble in this world. As a medic, what is a Buddhist way to navigate the phrase do no harm and also euthanasia? When dwelling with situations that are so ambiguous until not one choice is exactly good. Is it truly okay to do nothing? Is not saving a person because of DNR? Or he's too far gone, going to be a bad action? Of course it's not a bad action. The good actions and bad actions depends upon one's motivation. Are you really coming from kindness? Or are you acting out of fear? And when we do make choices of what to do, the Buddha always said, make sure you're not doing this out of personal desires. Make sure you're not doing it out of ill will, not doing it out of stupidity, delusion. Make sure you know exactly what's going on as best you possibly can in the time frame you have, and never act out of fear. So you're to do no harm. That's what you're trying to do. And you're motivated by doing no harm. But sometimes, just even in life, even in driving your car, you will harm many insects on your windscreen. Many times when you are eating your rice, that rice field had to be plowed and many animals died in the fields. So you can't live without doing harm. So the phrase should be minimize the harm you do. Try and do less harm. And for euthanasia, I always make the difference between voluntary euthanasia, where the patient makes a choice. It's their choice, their decision, their karma. It's not the doctor's, it's not anybody's except their own. So there's voluntary euthanasia and there's mercy killing. And sometimes the mercy killing is putting somebody out of their misery, but it's not out of their misery, it's putting people out of your misery. Because you don't like to see them suffering, but they may be at peace with that. So when dealing with a situation which is ambiguous, get as much information as you can in the time frame you have. Feel it in your heart. In big ethical questions, that's what I do. I just close my eyes and just feel what's right and what's wrong. And that sort of inner wisdom is usually much more trustworthy than anything I read in a book. And sometimes the choices are never black and white. They're always in between. So I choose the one which is the most good, not the one which is perfectly good. If I have done something irritated some monasteries, the monks said I would go to the hell. Would I be? I felt terribly sorry and sad about the misunderstanding that happened. If it's any good monk at all, you can't irritate them. You can't do something bad to a monastery. To the point that, sometimes I say this as a joke, but it's more than a joke. It's very powerful. when I give forgiveness for people, I always give forgiveness in the 3 time zones. For anything you've ever done in the past, anything you're doing now, and anything you will ever do in the future. And that's for everybody listening to this evening. I will give you those 3 forgivenesses. Anything you've done by body, speech, or mind, intentional or unintentional, or anything you didn't do which you should have done, you are forgiven from me for the past, the future, and the present, especially for the future. You're pre-forgiven. There's no way in the world you're going to irritate me or upset me. Some people have tried and they've failed miserably. So good monasteries, good monks, they will be beyond irritation. So, and you're forgiven before you even do it. So you won't not going to go to a hell realm. So why would anybody send you to a hell realm? You don't deserve to be there. So you felt terribly sorry to say about the misunderstanding that happened. I don't know which monasteries it was, which monks, but I'm a monk, a senior monk, and on their behalf, I hereby totally 100% forgive you. You don't need to feel sorry anymore. Learn from your mistakes, make sure you do something better in the future, but don't feel sorry and sad. Next question. Dear Ajahn, is it a must to practice meditation? If one doesn't or find it very difficult to do it, how will this affect practice of Buddhists? I hope this question will be answered. Thank you very much. Is it a must to eat? You don't have to eat. You'll die, but you don't have to eat. The same, do you have to practice meditation? If you want to be peaceful and happy and good Buddhist, then of course you have to meditate. It's not a hard thing to do. If one does not find it very difficult to do it, how will this affect the practice of the Buddhist? If you don't do it, of course, then that's not really all that very wise. Give it a try. If it's difficult to do it, then find another way. Find a really good teacher who can teach you how to meditate nice and peacefully. And hopefully that the one right in front of you now can teach you how to meditate nice and simply. And the way to do that, there's so many guided meditations. Find one which works for you. Download it. Everything I ever teach is all down there for free. You can download it as many times as you want for free. Put it on your iPad or iPod or smartphone or whatever else, dumb phone, whatever phone you've got. And then whenever you need to do some meditation, put your earbuds in and listen to that talk. And it's like you've got me or your favorite monk, your favorite nun, your favorite teacher right next to you. And you can hear them encouraging you. They're training you. Just like when you learn how to drive a car, you've got the driving instructor sitting right next to you. Just make sure you don't crash the car. And little by little, you listen to guided meditations in your earbuds on your iPhone, and then you find that soon you can get very good, peaceful meditation through listening to your teacher anytime, any place. And then later on, you can take the earbuds out because you've been trained, you know how to drive the car. Okay. Pondering on whether or not Buddhist devas are actually aware of Christian angels or Hindu gods. Are they in the same realm? Are they in 7 areas if all do exist? That's a very nice question. It is. Devas are devas. They are not Christian or Buddhist or Hindus. They are devas, heavenly beings. Some of them are more inclined to being Buddhist because of their past lives. Some maybe are not. Oh, in the same realms, I would say yes. And anyway, that if you're a Buddhist, if you're, say, a Mahayana Buddhist, and you see one of those devas, you interpret them as, say, a Kuan Yin. If you're a a Theravada Buddhist, you might interpret that beautiful light as, say, Sakka, the king of the gods. If you're a Hindu, you see it as Krishna or something. If you're a Christian, You see it as Jesus. Are these really Jesus? Or Kuan Yin? Or Krishna? This is actually what we add to the experience of seeing a deva. What we expect is how we interpret things. That's my answer there. Have we got time for another question? Yeah. Why is it important for us to forgive someone who has hurt us? The natural instinct would to seek revenge or at most to ignore the person. How do we let go of the hurt? It's someone who has hurt us. Do you deserve to be hurt? Or is it your fault? So have a look. They have hurt you. Whose fault was it? If it's your fault, then thank them and learn from it. But most cases, you didn't deserve it at all. So just say, well, you hurt me, but it wasn't my fault. So let it go. To seek revenge is not a natural instinct. It's something which has been brainwashed into us by books, by movies, by our parents, by our culture. But if you seek revenge and you hurt them, then they'll seek revenge from you or your family. And just the wars and the violence goes on. Forgiving stops violence. Revenge makes it continue almost forever. So when you understand that much, it's worth letting go of the hurt. Worth freeing yourself so the person doesn't have to be hurting you again. Every time you remember it, they're hurting you. Dear Ajahn, why we have this opportunity to listen to your lesson? Is it a coincidence from the universe, or either you or us have the need in our mind and we make it happen? Does this apply to all incidents happening in my life? The Buddha said that sometimes incidents happen in your life according to the law of karma. Sometimes it's just good luck. So I reckon it's good luck you were here enough to listen to this talk. Dear Ajahn, what does it mean if we have affinity with ghosts? Keep hearing, seeing, or hearing them? Especially when I try to meditate. This makes me fear to meditate. It's when you are meditating, it's very unlikely that what you're hearing are ghosts. Because ghosts are quite rare. And number two, ghosts are lower beings. If you look at the list of planes of existence which the Buddha described, human beings are above animals and animals are above ghosts. So why people get afraid of ghosts? Ghosts are lower beings. So if you don't want to hear the ghost, you tell them to go. Scram. And the amazing thing with ghosts, if you know just how much power you have as a human being, those ghosts have to scram. They cannot stay with you if you don't want them to. Tell them, out of here, go. Scram. And the ghosts have to flee. Especially with monks. The ghosts are terrified of monks. Good meditating monks, the power is just too much for them. So anyway, just tell the ghosts to go somewhere else. If you really want to, you can go and tell them to come to Ajahn Brahm's cave in Bodhinyana Monastery. Tell them to come here, and I'll tell them off, so they never harm you again. Dear Ajahn, I am bulimic. I'm currently being treated at the local hospital. In order for me to get better, I need to let go of the fear of food and gaining weight. How can I do this? Look at me. Oh, I can't. Oh, you know my tummy. So I'm not afraid of food and I'm not afraid of gaining weight. Actually, I've stopped gaining weight now because you get a certain amount of weight, you can't gain any more. So I'm always watching for weight increase. I don't have any weight increase anymore. I've already got to the limit. Can't get any more. But the main thing is fear of food and gaining weight. It's actually, do you really love yourself? Are you at peace with yourself? Some people are fat, some people are thin. You can't so compare which ones are which. That's one of the reasons Ajahn Brahm is fat, I'm happy being fat. So you can come and be like me, nice and fat and happy. Or like Santa Claus, he's fat and happy. Or Ajahn Chah's fat and happy. So we don't have that fear of food and gaining weight. We have this respect for ourselves and our bodies and kindness to ourselves. So we're not doing any more self-harm. Okay, do a few more minutes. It's the last talk. I feel burdened by my family while staying with them. I still care for them, but feel frustrated staying with them. I've been thinking of moving out, but will still care for them. Am I running away from my responsibilities and problems? Should I see the situation as my teacher? Feel negative thoughts all the time. Burden my family was thing. I don't know what your situation is, but it really depends. Just whether your family want you to be with them, they're happy with you with them, whether it's best to move out. So it's not running away from responsibilities. Don't just complicate things, because again, you'll always be around them. Ask them, see if they can let you go. Are you working? Can you save enough money so that you can get a carer for them if they need someone to clean the house or cook for them? So find out more information. So when you make a decision, you're not making out of personal needs, not out of ill will, not out of stupidity, because you haven't done the research and find out what's possible. And certainly don't do it out of fear. Okay. There's two more questions. I'll leave it these two questions. Ajahn, I would like to ask about the Buddhist review regarding organ donation taken from someone who's passed away. No problem at all. I'm an organ donor. I got a little card I carry around with me. If I pass away and someone can use my organs, you're welcome to them. So especially I want to give my brain away to someone and see if when they wake up, they can tell bad jokes like I do. Is that what happens when you give a brain to somebody? But no, be serious about this. Organ donation is giving life to somebody. You don't need those organs anymore. It's not as if in your next life you'll be devoid of an organ because you've given it to somebody. So it's a beautiful act of kindness to do. That's why I get inspired when I see people giving their organs. There was a wonderful story which hit the newspapers. I was very proud that this was about a Buddhist monk in Sri Lanka. And he used to give blood like many monks do. And when you give blood, you can also, they find out your genetic code or whatever. And he put his name down for an organ donor. If anyone needs anything, he's very happy to give one of his whatevers. And they contacted him. They had a perfect match for this person who had some kidney failure or something. And he said, look, you're a perfect match. Can you give one of your kidneys to this person who has no kidneys left? He said, of course, no trouble at all. It's donation. You give money and food to my monastery. Why can't I give something to somebody else? And then they said, well, there's a problem. So the person who needs your kidney, he's a born-again Christian who's going around Sri Lanka and converting many Buddhists to be Christians. And the monk said, what are you talking about? That's not a problem. When you give, not expecting anything out of this. Of course I can have my kidney. And so, he went to the hospital and gave his kidney to this evangelical Christian. And so, wow, what a beautiful act of kindness that is. So, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu to that. The last question, may Ajahn live until 120 years old? I forgive you for asking that question. 120! Can't I retire? Can't I have a nice easy death? Even the Buddha wasn't 120 when he passed away. Ajahn Chah wasn't 120 when he passed away. Do you really want to make me live that old? Well, see what happens. Okay, I did promise I will give a blessing. Is that okay, Freddie?
Wait,
Superpower
Ajahn,
blessing. Okay,
I'm
go
going
on.
to say something. And
Okay.
yeah, before the blessing, I have to say sadhu, 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 sadhu. Before the blessing, I want to say a few words. Although Ajahn has said in the Q&A that he's forgiving us, but I still want to want to arouse people's intention. So I want to say, representing people here, if we have ever done anything inappropriate to you by body, speech, or mind, we sincerely ask for your forgiveness, Ajahn.
No problem. You are forgiven. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
And me, as the host, I personally ask for the forgiveness of the people here. And for the people...
Yes.
Thank you.
You've done a good job. Thank you, Freddie.
Thanks, Ajahn. And for the people watching the playback, I want to warn you now that I'm going to let people unmute themselves towards the very end. So please turn down your headphone volume, as the noise is going to be very ridiculous. So that's...
Blessing first?
Yeah, blessing. Thanks, Ajahn.
Sabba Buddha-nubhavena, Sabba Dhamma-nubhavena, Sabba Sangha-nubhavena, Buddha-ratanang, Dhamma-ratanang, Sangha-ratanang, Tinnang-ratananang, Anubhavena, Chaturasiti, Sahasa Dhamma-kanda, Nubhavena, Pitakataya, Nubhavena, Jinasawaka, Nubhavena, Sabete Roga, Sabete Baya, Sabete Antaraya, Sabete Upadawa, Sabete Dunimita, Sabete Avamangala Vinasantu Ayuvatako, Danavatako, Sirivatako, Yasavatako, Alavatako, Vanavatako, Sukhavatako, Hotu Sabada Dukkha Roga, Paya Vera Sukha Satu Chupadawa Anekantaraya Piwina Santu Chatetusa Jaya Siddhi Danang Labang Soti Bhagayang Sukhang Balang Siriyayu Cha Wano Cha Bokang Wudi Cha Yasawa Satawa Sacha Ayu Cha Tiva Siddhi Bhavan Tu Te
Sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Ajahn.
Sadhu,
Thank you, Ajahn.
sadhu.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sadhu, Ajahn. Sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Ajahn. Sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu,
I miss you
sadhu,
very
sadhu.
much.
Sadhu, sadhu.
Oh.
Sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Ajahn Brahm.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
I'm happy.
Thank you.
To hear us.
That you have been teaching us.
Thank you, Ajahn. See you next year in Hong Kong.
Thank you, Ajahn. Keep well, Ajahn. Take care.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Have a good night, Ajahn.
Thank you so much, Ajahn.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your teaching. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, 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 Ajahn.
Is that it? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Excellent.
Thank you, everyone, for joining online program.
Thank you, Freddie.
Thank you very much.
Freddie.
Thank you, 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 Freddie. Thank you, Ajahn Brown. You're wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much for organizing. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. God bless you all. Thank you.
Okay.
Chicken
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Take care.
See you next time.
See you. Ciao, Ajahn Brahm.
Stay happy. Stay happy.
I'm going.
Bye.
Going.